Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2024 Waste Management Phoenix Open DFS Tactics show. We have a lot to cover. Forecast, rankings. Don't want to waste any time. Let's get straight into it, shall we? All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best tool out there, or best golf analytics tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much smarter golf gambler, much better golf DFS player. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description to the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where I post research weekly on the PGA Tour. It generally comes out Monday afternoons. Did so this week around the past 9 or 10 winners of the Waste Management Phoenix Open, all the way back to the renovation in 2014, the pattern of the winners and the players who qualify in the field this week. So if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site, X or Instagram. X is also where I place my betting cards and my weekly player exposure, my top player usage in DFS. Those come out after calls and the DFS Tactics show on Wednesday night. So that'll be out a little bit later on this evening. If you want to see those pieces of information, then give me a follow over at X. And then lastly, for social media, Gabe's social media handle is in the description. He writes a very good article called The Fringe. It's a great way to start your week of research, and he continues to give you his look and his feel on players of course history and recent form throughout the week. So go show Gabe some support. Follow him over on social media and subscribe to his article. It is free to do so. And if you are a subscriber, you're going to be able to join him in his Substack chat every Wednesday evening. I will be there eventually, although February is my schedule is not conducive for that. But starting in March and then moving forward, we will be in his Substack chat. Continue the DFS talk after calls. So you don't want to miss out on that. Go show him some support. Subscribe to that article. Lastly, we are live. Chat is open. Want to hear from you all. Who are you targeting this week? Who are you fading away from? Do you have any 6K plays? Have you made any wagers? What kind of lineups are you building? And I have got a poll question to type up. So let me think about that very, very quickly. But let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2024 Waste Management Phoenix Open. And we are going to start, as we always do, on a Wednesday evening with the super forecast over at Windfinder. You see that tomorrow looks like a lot of wind in the morning and then dying off in the afternoon. Perhaps a little bit of precipitation around lunchtime. Let me type up this poll question very, very quickly. And it's going to be very, very simple. Is Scotty Scheffler too chalky for your use this week? Yes or no? So, very simple question. Is Scotty Scheffler too chalky for your use this week? Gabe and I have been talking pretty consistently throughout this week that most of our decisions have come down basically to, are we going to use Scotty Scheffler or are we not? Good evening, Awaken. Thanks for jumping into chat. It is good to see you. Much appreciated. Finally, a real tournament. Well, I am not one. I am not the most in favor of the small field, signature events and all that stuff. I'm much more confident, at least in my analytics, with full fields and just one consistent course, no rotations like the American Express or Pebble Beach. So in that regard, yes, I am ready to get back into typical golf, if you will, and I've got some confidence this week after an admittedly very poor Pebble Beach. We're going to get back on the right track. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated on that. It's good to see you. With this forecast, and again, all we can go by is what the forecast is showing, but with this forecast about 8 to 10 hours away from the first tee time, Look, I'm going to give a fairly significant advantage to this Thursday PM, Friday AM start. You see all of the wind looks like it's in the Thursday morning portion of the cut. And I don't believe there is much wind in the forecast for the weekend. You see Saturday, maybe a little bit of rain in the morning, and then Sunday also very, very calm. So there's Saturday and Sunday from an extended view. So with all of the wind projected, or at least in the forecast for Thursday morning, it looks like Thursday morning is going to get the worst part of the draw. So I'm giving a fairly significant advantage to the Thursday PM, Friday AM portion of the draw. And I will have those tee times up over on this other side monitor here in case there are any questions about tee times. But that is how I see the wave advantage, or wave split, if you will, for the WMPO this week. So with that, I will close out. We're going to go to Fantasy National, and normally I like to do one kind of quick review of the main topics of the week. Instead, we're going to do something a little bit different as I unstar these favorited players to grab projected ownerships. We're going to do something a little bit different this week because I am not myself being the statistician and data analyst. I'm not confident or comfortable using this average scoring relative to par filter. TPC Scottsdale is right smack dab in the middle here, just under 7,300 yards. So we don't have any short course or long course filters to look at. You could make an argument to look at calm winds, considering all the wind is supposed to be out of the tournament area by Thursday afternoon. I understand if you want to maybe look at calm winds, but instead we're going to look at putting, specifically at TPC Scottsdale. I mentioned Monday night how I didn't know how I was going to attack the putting this week, since TPC Scottsdale is a very unique circumstance where this is Poa Trivialis overseed. Normally, courses are Poa Trivialis base with rye overseed. That is not the case here at TPC Scottsdale. So this is a very, very unique circumstance for the PGA Tour, at least in terms of green surfaces. Good evening, Darnell. Thanks for jumping in chat. I know we've been in communication a little bit, talking about lineups for this week. Hopefully we are going to iron out the optimal 6-man lineup to dominate in our contest. Thanks for jumping to chat. Much appreciated. So our top putters at TPC Scottsdale the past 2 years, and again, that's as far back as I can go unless I want to grab all records, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to go back too far. So I'm just keeping it in the last 2 years. So it's a very, very small sample size, just understand that. But our top putters at TPC Scottsdale the past 2 years: Scotty Scheffler, Alex Noren, Billy Horschel, Matt Kuchar, Sahith Theegala, Sam Ryder, Zach Johnson, Chesson Hadley, Max Homa, and Peter Malnati. Those are your top 10 in terms of putting the past 2 years at TPC Scottsdale. If you want to go down a little bit further, Scott Stallings, Tom Kim, only one tournament, but that's still half of the data. Ryan Moore, Adam Hadwin, Martin Laird, there's your top 15. Hideki has putt very well here in the past. Charlie Hoffman has putt very well here in the past. So there's your top putters in the past 2 years at TPC Scottsdale. The other end of the spectrum, players who have not putt well: Tyler Duncan, Luke List, not really a surprise, but still got to say it, Luke List. Joseph Bramlett, David Lipsky, Shane Lowry, it's only 2 rounds, Nate Lashley, Bezaden Hoot, Gary Woodland. He is a former champion here, but the past 2 years he has not particularly putt well. Brandon Wu, Emiliano Grillo, Doug Gim, again, no real surprise. Most of these players are not known for their putting anyway. Jordan Spieth actually has not putt very well here. Hubbard, Vegas, Holmes, and so on down. You can see the bottom 30 or so. So that is the piece of review that we're going to do tonight. Again, no scoring relative to par filter, no course length, no architect, no wind. Again, you could argue to look at calm wind, but I am just going to go with this putting review for you all, and we're going to jump straight into the mixed condition model. And the reason why I showed you the putting, to keep that in mind, because there's none in the mixed condition model. So as we look at this mixed condition model that I've made for TPC Scottsdale and the Waste Management this week, it starts off 15% strokes gained off the tee. I've talked all week how this is just an off the tee paradise. This is one of the courses that really emphasizes your tee game. A lot of players talk about this being a first shot course. So I wanted to be overexposed, if you will, I guess, in off the tee, if anything. I didn't want to be underexposed to it. 15% in off the tee, 15% in approach. This is a ball striking course, and with the amount of rain that I think they've had in the area, and it looks like we could get some rain tomorrow and Saturday morning, there is a chance. I don't know if it's a great one, but there is a chance of ball in hand. And so with that being the case, strokes gained approach is going to be even more important going at these flags, just going flag hunting. These greens are generally pretty firm, so with the moisture that they've gotten and the precipitation they've gotten recently, these greens should soften up a little bit. I think approach is going to play more of a factor than it normally does here. And I'm in complete agreement with you, Darnell. Don't know if you saw the very beginning of the show, went through Windfinder, but I would say that there is a pretty significant Thursday PM, Friday AM advantage based on the forecast that we have from Windfinder. So I am in agreement with you with that. 10% distance. Again, 10% with the distance just matters here. It just does. We've seen that all week in the prior leaderboards through Microsoft Excel and the data. Players talk about this being a first shot course. You got to have the distance to compete here. You look at the prior winners. Gary Woodland, as we mentioned. Brooks Koepka's won here twice. Your two-time defending champion, Scotty Scheffler. He really moves it off the tee. Not necessarily the most accurate, but moves it off the tee. So I wanted to emphasize the distance this week. This could be weak, as I mentioned, if there is ball in hand due to the precipitation that they've had and might have tomorrow and Saturday morning. You could argue to maybe look a little bit at the fairways, but I am really targeting the Bombers this week. Good evening, Gabe. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Like giving a bump to driving accuracy since it will probably be preferred lies. Yeah, I just mentioned that before I read your comment. I don't hate it, but I'm still just targeting the Bombers. We saw that last week with Pebble Beach too, with the preferred lies. Now, the difference is Pebble Beach was soaked, and I mean absolutely soaked. So you got absolutely zero run out last week. You might get a little bit of run out this week. I don't think they've had as much precipitation as the flooding that's going on in San Diego area. But you didn't get any rollout at Pebble Beach with those preferred lies. You needed some distance. So that's also why I like having distance, or at least focusing on the distance. But, you know, accuracy still is a big factor in off the tee anyway. This one I took, admittedly, from Gabe. I've started to come around to this metric when birdies gained or birdies are better or bogeys avoided, when it's not too clear what scoring metric that you like or which one, you know, plays more important. I've really started liking looking at opportunities, and it makes a lot of sense this week again with these preferred lies. The greens are going to be a little bit more soft, a little bit more receptive, I think. So players are going to be flag hunting even more. You want to see the guys who are, obvious statements are obvious, putting themselves closer to the hole. So 10% in opportunities gained. Being able to hit ball, sure, but approach will be a big one, not spraying off the tee. The only reason I'm going to disagree with you, and yes, there are a few holes with water in play here, so you got to be careful on those holes. Otherwise, the rough here is not very penalizing. Players generally aren't too worried about being in the rough. It's only if they're very, very wayward, as in, like desert area or water. That's where I'm going to disagree with you just a little bit on, Darnell. Yes, you do want a little bit of accuracy, but I'm still, like I said, this is where my angle is. I'm really, really focused on the Bombers this week. 10% opportunities. Look, I did end up using 5% bogeys avoided. We saw last year in the mixed condition model, it was a pretty darn good predictive indicator for the players that finished in the top 20 to 25. It was pretty darn predictive. I didn't feel comfortable taking it out completely, but I did want to lower its percentages to include opportunities to make sure I had enough of this emphasis in the ball striking and off the tee. So 5% bogeys avoided. The big change with this, normally I combine a scoring metric with a scoring filter. You see none of these metrics have a filter. I didn't feel comfortable using average to par and shorter long course, because TPC Scottsdale's right at 7,300 or just under it. I didn't feel comfortable using a specific filter this week, so everything is just in the last 36 rounds. 10% proximity. These greens are large. A lot of times you're going to get, or these greens generally are pretty firm. With the amount of precipitation they've had, they might soften up a little bit. So I want to see players who, again, like when we talked about the opportunities, who are just firing at these flags, trying to get as close as possible. So 10% total procs. No par threes. We spent a lot of time this week talking about how the par threes just don't matter here in terms of upper tier or upper leaderboard success. So we round out the mixed condition model with 5% in the 400 to 450 par 4s, 15% in the 450 to 500 par 4s, 15% in the 550 to 6 par 5s. So I spent a little bit of time Monday in the Data Dive show talking about how I didn't know if I was going to separate out this range, especially since, because I've done this, we're ignoring that drivable par 4 17th. It is only one hole, but that could be another weakness that I have in this mixed condition model, that I'm not factoring that hole in really at all. I don't have anything in par 4s, par 4s total. I just went with the 400 to 450 and 450 to 5s because 10 of the 11 par 4s fall to this range on the scorecard and generally play to these true ranges and yardages, except for the drivable par 4 17th. But the big emphasis was in the 450 to 5s. And then every single par 5 measures to this length on the scorecard at TPC Scottsdale. So there's a look at the mixed condition model this week. Hopefully I have explained the thought process behind the metrics that I've chosen, why I didn't use any filters, and hopefully I've explained, some areas that it could be weak. Another area it could be weak, like if TPC Scottsdale does play easy this week, or if it does play difficult. Some other filters could be applied. Those are the ones that kind of jump out to me the most. If around the green matters, we've seen that around the green has mattered occasionally here at TPC Scottsdale. Again, no putting. So if putting becomes a big factor, I'll be weak to that. But that is the mixed condition model that I have for Phoenix this week. With that, let's go ahead and move to the reveal of my rankings. And my rankings go as such. Max Homa is my number one player. I'm going to put a pretty big asterisk with that. Just star that. Max Homa number one, kind of. Scotty Scheffler 2, Wyndham Clark 3rd, Corey Connors and Gary Woodland round out my top 5. Hideki, JT, Ben On, Bo Hostler, and Ricky Fowler will round out my top 10. So let's talk about why Max Homa came up or rose all the way to number one. You see, he was number 2 per the analytics at Fantasy National. He's getting helped by the fact that Scotty Scheffler is so overwhelmingly chalky per the members at Fantasy National. He's actually the second most popular behind Justin Thomas, and that's why Justin Thomas isn't any higher than what he is. But I would still make Scotty Scheffler the number one player. He is the two-time defending champion here. Quick reminder for those who are returning viewers, or for your information if you're a new viewer, my rankings are based on 3 criteria: the FNGC rank, which is a pure analytics-based ranking on the model that we just went over, and the metrics and the percentages used. Course value is an attempt at giving a player a numerical value based on their performance at TPC Scottsdale in the past 5 years. And also projected ownership, and this is per Fantasy National. We are playing DFS. We're trying to find unique options, so percent owned is also a factor into my rankings. All right, in my top 10, no real surprises as to who. I think Gary Woodland being 5th is a little bit too high. He's getting helped by the fact that, nobody seems to be using him. He is a former champion here. He has played well here in the recent past. He is coming off the surgery from the fall. He's played a couple times with some middling success, so a little bit too high in my opinion on Gary Woodland. Again, he's getting helped by this astronomically low percent owned, but I don't have a problem with him being in the top 10 because he has played well here. Been on with all the emphasis on off the tee. Bo Hostler has played very, very well here, sub 10%. Ricky Fowler's a former champion here. No problem with him being in the top 10. I am a tad bit surprised Tagala is not in my top 10 based on the fact that he has played very, very well at TPC Scottsdale in his 2 times, but he only rated top 20 or 24th per Fantasy National with the pure numbers. So he's a little bit further down. He's getting helped by this very, very good or very low course value. All right, don't want to spend too much time in terms of rambling about my top 10. Let's go to the price board, sort on the salaries, figure out where, at least per Fantasy National, our fellow contestants are going, and then figure out where we want to maneuver around that. So in the 10Ks, thanks to the 2 withdrawals of Victor Hovland and Victor Hovland and Xander Schauffele, we only have 2 players in the 10Ks, and they are at the drastic ends of the 10Ks. We have Scotty Scheffler at 11,600 and Justin Thomas at 10,000. So Scotty Scheffler is very, very prohibitive in terms of lineup building because of his price, and that's probably why, along with the fact that he has always played TPC Scottsdale well, that's probably why Justin Thomas is getting a whole lot of attention, because he's not as nearly as demanding on the pricing as Scotty Scheffler is. But in the 10Ks, we only have 2 players. I am still going to make Scotty Scheffler the number 1 player. I expect Scotty Scheffler to be the highest owned player in the contest this week. I expect Justin Thomas to be number 2. But even with Scheffler being number 1, I will make him the top of these 2 choices. He is the 2-time defending champion. He's the number 1 putter on these greens the past 2 years. He just loves Scottsdale. Thomas does too, but Scotty Scheffler just loves Scottsdale. Number 1 off the tee, number 1 approach, 30th here in driving distance. 30th is his worst statistic. Half of the metrics that I gathered off the tee, approach, opportunities, proximity, bogey avoidance, number 1, not just elite, number 1 in this field. Scotty Scheffler, my number 1 player this week. Again, the only reason why Homa is technically number 1 is because of the lower percent owned by a drastic margin. But I think Scotty Scheffler is a good choice. I'm going to use my fair share of Scotty Scheffler because I think there are a couple of 6K plays and a couple of lower 7s that are getting ignored that I'm going to be able to gain a lot of uniqueness off of. But make no mistake, it is a very, very prohibitive price that he is at, I can't call Justin Thomas a fade because, I mean, he loves Scottsdale, so I'm sure I'll have him a little bit. But you can't use a lot of these guys together. You can't use a lot of them. So you're gonna have to choose. Do I go Scheffler or no? Do I go Thomas or no? Again, Gabe and I have been in pretty consistent talk this week. We felt like it was Scotty Scheffler or no. That was the decision you had to make. But I can understand if you want to ask yourself that same question on Justin Thomas. But I think it's Scotty Scheffler. You got to choose. You got to decide if you're going to play Scotty or not because of the prohibitive price and the expected. I mean, I have no idea what you are seeing in your other sources, Gabe, but I have to imagine close to 30% for Scotty Scheffler. I mean, you got to expect that. Shoot, Thomas might be there too. But I'll go Scheffler first and JT second in the 10Ks. Let's move to the 9s. Max Homa, Sam Burns, Jordan Spieth, Matt Fitzpatrick, Sung Jae, Cameron Young, Sahith Theegala, and Wyndham Clark. I really like a lot in this range. Max Homa, technically, put an asterisk there, technically my number one player. He has played very, very well at TPC Scottsdale. Top 10 off the tee, 4th in these par 5s, and you just got to score on these par 5s at TPC Scottsdale. Plenty of opportunities as well. 10th in bogey avoidance. Top 10 on the short par 4s. I really like the 9Ks. And this comes into, kind of your lineup building. Are you skipping Scheffler or are you not? Darnell's saying he's skipping the 9Ks. I love the 9Ks. But if you're using Scotty Scheffler, you're kind of right. You kind of have to skip the 9Ks altogether. I really like Homa. Matt Fitzpatrick is an interesting case for me. You see the course value here is one of the best. He's only played here twice, but it's a top 10 and I think a top 30. He's played very, very well his 2 tries here at TPC Scottsdale. Nothing analytically. I mean, you see analytically 61st, not great. So the off the tee is pretty middling. Approach hasn't been great. He is good at these par 5s, but nothing analytically really stands out. Yet, you're getting 6.5% on Matt Fitzpatrick, an all-world talent who has played extremely well here. And there's been a lot of talk this week about how important prior success at TPC Scottsdale is. It was part of the research I put out this past Monday. Fitzpatrick to me is very interesting. Very interesting. I'm still kind of waffling back and forth whether I want to, really commit to him or not. I've got him a little bit. But that's one way you can gain a lot of leverage on your opponents. Gain a lot of win equity is on Fitzpatrick. Especially Spieth, Theegala, Clark. Too much ownership with golfers in the 8 that are same level golfers. We'll get to there. I don't disagree with the general sentiment. I am very high on this one. But I don't disagree with the sentiment in general. Sung Jae's played very, very well here, but he's not been very, very good. I warned you about him at Pebble Beach. He was really bad. Hopefully you followed me. That was the one of the things that I got right about Pebble Beach. I didn't get a lot right about Pebble Beach, but I was right that Sung Jae just generally doesn't play Pebble Beach very well. He has played well here, and it seems like at least per Fantasy National, people might be getting off of Sung Jae. So when he starts to become a pivot, that's when you start really looking at Sung Jae, especially at these courses that he has performed well at. So it's worth a look. I don't know if he is unique enough yet to be a target, but it's getting close. Cameron Young, all the off the tee game makes a lot of sense, but he's kind of struggled here. Gosh dang it. He's kind of struggled here, and the irons have been very, very bad. If you're playing Homa and Scheffler, are going to be tough playing. No, I'm not. There's no way. If you're playing Scheffler, I don't think you can use the 9Ks. This is your alternative to a Scheffler. I think you could probably play a 9K, or maybe 2 if you're really stars and scrubs heavy with Justin Thomas. But when we get to the lineups, I'll show you the kind of lineups I'm building. There's no way you're going to be able to do a Scheffler and a 9K. Tagala, I really, really like, but to Darnell's point, he's going to be pretty popular, I think. At least he is for Fantasy National. Good ball striking, not great, but good ball striking, but has putt well on this surface. He's played well here. Top 15 on these longer par 4s. Top 20 on these par 5s. I think he's going to be fine. But I'm much higher on Wyndham Clark. And yes, I understand he's coming off the win at Pebble Beach. I don't see any reason why he won't be good. I'm not saying he's going to win the tournament, although foreshadowing, I might have a win wager on him. But he's played pretty darn well here. He's pretty darn good off the tee. He's excellent on these longer par 4s and the length of these par 5s. I talked about how I'm targeting the bombers. Wyndham Clark's got plenty of bomb to him. He doesn't have a pink or red statistic. I really like Wyndham Clark. If he's higher than 15%, it's going to be tough for me to gain a lot of leverage with it. But I'm just going on the fact that I see 12% here. It's not overwhelming chalk with Wyndham Clark that I think that I can't gain or rise in these big GPPs. I really, really like Wyndham Clark this week. Fade JT because of accuracy. Normally I would say yes. Normally. But, I mean, the guy has been playing lights out lately. So, has he turned the corner? Has he done his, he hasn't won yet like Spieth or like Ricky. But has he turned that corner to where, he's back to the, closer to the JT of old? I don't know. It's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to deny what he's done the past 3 weeks. I think I would play Scheffler more than JT in the 10Ks if that's where you are, if that's the decision you're trying to make, Awaken. I even think I would probably play a little bit more Homa than Justin Thomas. A lot of that based on the projected ownership. But to say Justin Thomas is a full fade, I can't say that because I'm pretty sure I'm going to have him a time or two. But I'm certainly, put it this way, I'll be underweight on him compared to what looks to be the industry norm. That's the best way I can say it. I'm certainly not going to have 25% Justin Thomas. I can't say it's a full fade. I don't think I have those big of stones. But I'm not going to use him as much as 25% or whatever is going to be ludicrous number he's going to be at, maybe even closer to 30. I was thinking about getting hurt with Spieth again. So in the 9Ks, just to wrap this up, I'll use Homa. That's going to be some chalk I'll eat. I'm hoping Wyndham Clark really truly is at this 12 to maybe 13 or 14%. If he's much higher, it's going to be a disappointing week for me, at least in terms of that ownership. But I really like Wyndham Clark. Tagala's fine. I'm going to have some Sahith Tagala. And I am really stuck on the fence with Fitzpatrick. The guy has played exceptionally well here, but analytically, it doesn't look great. So do I go with the course history or do I go with the mixed condition model? It's the decision I have to make, but I really, really like the idea of getting a player that has played exceptionally well here, less than 7%, who's played well here and he's an all-world talent. Moving into the 8s. Not going to go through every player. Ben On's going to be very, very chalky for good reason. Probably 6th off the tee, 4th in distance with the emphasis that I have in off the tee. Makes a lot of sense. He could struggle a little bit, I suppose, because he's not been the best at the length of these par 5s. It hasn't stopped him from performing well here in the past, though. So take that, a little bit of a grain with salt. I think his irons are better than this. Spieth and him more balanced, no 6Ks. Like I said, you all are throwing out some lineup stuff, and and I love it. Continue to do so. I might not comment on it because I'll show you the kind of lineups that I'm building. Some of you all have hit on some of these, some of the lineups that I'm building as well. But yeah, I think Ben On's gonna be chalky, but I think it's probably a good play. Very speculative, but I like Minwoo Lee for the same reason. He has not played TPC Scottsdale. I get it, but all of the emphasis on off the tee. He's very good at these long par fours. The irons are much better than what they're showing here. Much better. Second in distance. Fifth in bogey avoidance. I love Minwoo Lee this week. I'll be extremely overweight on Minwoo Lee. I think it's a speculative play that is very, very worthwhile in the high eights. To your point, Darnell, earlier that you really liked the eights. I don't disagree with the sentiment of maybe overlooking the nines, because there are a lot of good plays here in the eights, starting with Minwoo Lee. I think I'm just really high on Wyndham Clark. Corey Connors has your attention. We're going to talk about him when we get to the eights, like we are now. Let me get there. Tom Kim, interesting, I guess. He wasn't too bad in his first try here, but he just doesn't have a lot of distance. He hasn't given himself a lot of opportunities. He's just been very good proximity. So 5.5% Tom Kim. I don't think he's going to end up 5%, 5.5%. He'll probably be closer to 10%, but interesting to think about. Eric Cole, this might be a bold fade for me, because I really like Eric Cole on shorter courses. TPC Scottsdale is not a short course. It's not a long course, but it's not a short course either. New here is this weekly show. Good evening, Jeff. Thanks for jumping to chat. Yes, it is a weekly show, Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday. You're catching Wednesday, which is the DFS Tactics show, since lineups lock generally on Thursday mornings, or if we're over in England late on Wednesday nights. So I do DFS on Wednesdays. Mondays I take a deep dive into the data, and Sunday is an initial research show. But I really appreciate you jumping in chat and checking out the show. It's very much appreciated, Jeff. Corey Connors hasn't played golf in a while. Wouldn't play that guy. Can't remember the last time he's done something. No need to settle for just making the cut. You say that. He's actually been pretty good here. He's got a couple of top 15s, if I'm not mistaken. Very, very accurate. Now, yes, he's lacking a little bit of the distance, but look, with no filter, just straight up distance in the past 36 rounds, he's actually not too far back. Sub 10%. Really, really like Corey Connors. I'm much more on Awaken's train of thought with Corey Connors. He definitely has my attention at sub 10%. Eric Cole might be a bold fade, as I was mentioning. Man, I can't seem to get Hideki right now. I don't know if something's wrong, or I just don't know, because he generally really likes TBC Scottsdale. He's also liked the American Express and played okay at Pebble Beach, and the Farmers for that matter, and he was okay at the Farmers, but he wasn't outstanding. I just don't know what to do with Hideki. So I hate to give you the cop-out answer, but literally with Hideki, if you have a strong feeling one way or the other, use it, because I don't. I just have no clue with Hideki. Adam Scott, going to be very, very popular. Okay, I just can't get excited about Adam Scott, especially a chalky Adam Scott. Talked about Corey Connors. Really like Corey Connors. I also really like Bo Hostler. He's played very well here. He's one of the top putters in the past 2 years here at TPC Scottsdale. I imagine Bo Hostler will be a little bit more owned than what Fantasy National is expecting or projecting. But I still like Bo Hostler. Good evening, James. Thanks for jumping in chat. We got a full house. I love it. Love it. If you have not filled out the poll question, I ask that you do so, because I try to give you a thought-provoking poll question. But tonight's was pretty simple, based around yes or no on Scotty Scheffler. He seems trending solid scores as late, 70 or better in the last 9 rounds. See, I don't really tend to look at round scores because you have different pars, 72s and 70s. I don't personally look at that. If you do, then yeah, he is playing a little bit better. I'm assuming you are talking about Connors in that regard, Awaken. So in the 8Ks, look, been on. I'll probably have a time or two, but I'm going to be a little underweight on him. Hoping that the irons and the par 5s kind of fall back. I'm going to play a speculative Minwoo Lee. Good night, Gabe. Really, really appreciate jumping in chat. Sorry that I wasn't able to make yours. February is just kind of busy for me. But good luck to you. And if you have not subscribed to Gabe's article, his social media handle is in the description. Highly suggest you go do so. It's a very good read. Thanks again, Gabe. Much appreciated. Good luck this week. To finish out these 8Ks, I am going to use a speculative Minwoo Lee. I'm going to be overweight on Minwoo Lee. We didn't talk about Ricky. He's kind of struggled lately. 7.5% is interesting. I'll use Connors and I'll use Bo Hostler. So that's where you and I will disagree, Darnell, and it sounds like Awaken and I are in agreement. We're using Connors, and I'm going to be using Hostler. Moving into the upper 7s, Batia getting a lot of attention here. It makes a lot of sense. He actually doesn't have a bad statistic because there is no putting in this mixed condition model. 40, actually he's got 49th way at the end. All of his stuff is just pretty good. He's going to be very, very popular, I think, for good reason. It's a very good speculative play like Minwoo Lee, but that's why I like Minwoo Lee more, because he doesn't seem to be getting the popularity or the ownership that Akshay Bhatia is. So just be aware of that it seems like Bhatia is getting a lot of attention. But I think it's a solid play. Alex Noren has just played very, very well here. Despite his lack of off-the-tee prowess, he's played very well here. So take a look at Noren. I'm not in love with it, but it's okay. To your point, Darnell, Dietrich has been in amazing form. Cannot dispute that one bit. The off the tee is a little suspect, but he has the distance, which is what we've been focused on. I don't know. Dietrich's interesting, I guess. He just didn't rate out too terribly well for me. The irons didn't seem all that great. Although, with as much of a heater as he's on, I'm surprised that the irons aren't any better. I don't know. Dietrich could be interesting. Could be interesting there, Darnell. But I'm pretty confident I'm going to take Connors over Dietrich. But I don't hate the Dietrich shout. Moving into the mid 7s, not a lot here I like, actually. If you think this is going to get tough, take a look at Keith Mitchell, because he's actually played well here with the off the tee prowess. But I always target Keith Mitchell when it's tough. I just don't foresee Scottsdale playing tough or difficult relative to par. And moving into the low 7s, I don't like a whole lot here in the mid 7s. I mean, I guess if you want to consider Dietrich a mid 7, I think it's a fine speculative play. But, I'm not really in love with Bezuidenhout. Hubbard's getting a lot of attention from his Pebble Beach performance. Okay, but he is not an off the tee player, and I have this as an off the tee kind of course. I don't like Hubbard. Not really in love with Griot either. So not a lot here in the mid 7s that I like. If you have a strong feeling about Bobby Mack, go ahead. I don't. In the low 7s, Kevin Yu getting some attention now at 10%. And I think for good reason. He's been a pet player of mine for a long while. Humble brag that he was one of my players that I was really, really keyed on for season long. Top 5 off the tee, top 10 in distance. He's plenty of opportunities as well. He is really rising because there's no putting in this mixed condition model, and he's not a good putter. But I don't think TPC Scottsdale is tough to putt. So I really like Kevin Yu, but I do not think he's going to be as unique as you think he will be. He's a 10% per Fantasy National. I would not be surprised if he's up to 12 or 13%. It's a very good play. I'm absolutely going to use some Kevin Yu, but he's not as unique as you think he is. So be aware of that. Elsewhere in the low 7s, look, I understand team no putt, all that stuff, but if you're talking about ball striking, you got to talk about Luke List. He's actually played okay here. Hadn't been terrible. Top 20 off the tee. Damn near top 20 in these par 5s. Plenty of distance. But you got to look at Luke List if you're looking at ball striking. And he's played okay here. Van Rooyen getting a lot of attention. I'm not particularly there, even though the off the tee has been pretty good. This might be a little bit more of a fade for me. Yeah, I don't know. I can't get excited about an Eric Van Rooyen. I like Gary Woodland. It's very, very dangerous to play Gary Woodland, but he does not seem to be chalky. Talk about off the tee, talk about approaching. Still, top 5 in this field in approach. The last 36 rounds. Gary Woodland. Sub 5%. Former champion here at TPC Scottsdale. I really, really like Gary Woodland. I'm going to be extremely overweight on Gary Woodland. If he plays poorly, I will lose. I am going to be way too high on Gary Woodland, so take that for what you will. I also don't hate Chesson Hadley. Even though he lacks a little bit of the off the tee game that I've been trying to focus on this week, still good with the irons, very good on these long par 4s, and bogey avoidance, he's top 5. So I do like Chesson Hadley at the very bottom of the 7s. Moving into the 6s, I think there are a couple of names that are worth a look. I definitely want to give you a couple of names in the 6Ks, especially if you are on the yes to playing Scotty Scheffler. You're going to maybe have to come down into these 6Ks, or at least think about it. So here's a couple of names for you. Not going to be very, very unique, but Sam Ryder is interesting. He always generally plays well at TPC Scottsdale. 3rd in irons. 9th in opportunities. 12th in procs. Really, probably a solid play, but he's just way too popular for my liking in the 6Ks. The next player I was going to say, Darnell, Doug Gim. Take a look at Doug Gim, especially because I don't have any putting in this. He's going to rise. He hasn't played Scottsdale extremely well, so I might pump the brakes just a little bit with that. But top 10 off the tee, almost top 20 in approach. He does lack a little bit of the distance. He's more of an accuracy guy as opposed to a distance guy. But plenty of opportunities, plenty of proximity. It's generally the putter that lets him down. These are supposedly really easy greens to putt. Doug Gim is probably worth a pretty good look, but he's getting a little bit of attention as well. I do want to mention Vincent Norman. Off the tee, very, very strong. I think he's a better iron player than what he's showing right now. He is a PGA Tour winner. Yes, it's the Barbasol, but he is a PGA Tour winner. And this guy devours par 5s. Look, he's got a lot of things wrong with him as well. He has not been giving himself a lot of opportunities. He hasn't been he hasn't been good with the proximity. You're playing Vincent Norman on the off the tee and par 5 narrative. So I want to mention Vincent Norman. The last name that I want to mention for you all in the 6Ks at 6,500 is Johnny Vegas. And the reason I'm mentioning it, He has played TPC Scottsdale twice in the past 5 years. Nothing outside of a top 25. 10th and off the tee. Top 15 on these longer par 4s. Plenty of distance. Plenty of opportunities. Again, the putter generally holds him back. He's coming off an injury. You have plenty of reasons to ignore Johnny Vegas or not come down as far as Johnny Vegas if you don't want to. But I think it's a worthwhile speculation, especially if you're on these Scotty Scheffler lineups where you're trying to fit as much into it as you can. Johnny Vegas at 6,500, I don't hate. A lot of the golfers besides Scheffler playing the PM, AM Wave, and Kevin Yu. Yeah, I mean that's. Well, we'll get to the lineups here in a second. So there's the look at the price board where Fantasy National members are going in terms of ownership and where I think you can gain some leverage. We've been going for quite a while, still got to cover some lineups. So for those who play tiers contests, Tier 1, we only have 2 players thanks to the withdrawals. Tier 1 is Scotty Scheffler and Justin Thomas. I'm going to take Scotty. I'm just more confident in Scotty not missing the cut, essentially. I think there is a non-zero chance Justin Thomas can miss the cut. Famous last words, but I think there's a 0 chance that Scotty Scheffler misses the cut. So famous last words, clip that, all that funny business. I'll just take Scheffler. I'm just more confident in Scheffler in Tier 1. Tier 2, Max Homa, Sam Burns, Jordan Spieth, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Cam Young. The chalky play is Max Homa. I think it's a good play. I'll tell you what, Matt Fitzpatrick's played very, very well here, and it appears that he is going to be extremely unique. In Tier 2, I think I'm going to try and hit a home run, especially since either way you go, you're going to be chalky here, and I know I'm going to take some chalk a little bit later in tiers. I think I'm going to take Matt Fitzpatrick in Tier 2. Try to gain some leverage, trying to gain a little bit of uniqueness, try to hit a home run in Tier 2. Tier 3, we have Sungjae, Sahith Theegala, Wyndham Clark, JT Poston, and Minwoo Lee. I like a lot in this tier as well. Theegala, I think, is a good play. I talked a lot about how I love Wyndham Clark, and I really like Minwoo Lee as a speculative play. In tiers, I think Minwoo Lee has to be 3rd in this tier, although it pains me to say that. In Tier 3, I'm going to go Wyndham Clark based on these projected ownerships. I'll take the more unique play. I'm a little bit higher on Wyndham Clark anyway. I do think Theegala is a good play. I'll just take Wyndham Clark in Tier 3. Tier 4, Ben On, Tom Kim, Eric Cole, Hideki, Adam Scott, Ricky Fowler, and Adam Hadwin. As much as I love Tier 3, I don't like Tier 4. Ben On chalky, but a good play. I'm going to fade Eric Cole. I'm probably going to fade Hideki. Ricky's kind of interesting. But I've taken some uniqueness in Tier 2 and Tier 3. I don't think I want to take a big, I don't think I need to take any more big chances. I'll probably go with Ben On in Tier 4. Ricky's a fairly close second, though, in Tier 4, but I'll take Ben On. Tier 5, Corey Connors, Bo Hostler, Siwoo, Alex Noren, Batia, Brian Harmon, and Daniel Berger. I do like Batia, but I think he's going to be too popular. So he's going to be a clear 3rd in this. Noren is interesting, a little bit more speculative, but Noren's kind of interesting if you have a strong feeling towards Noren. For me, it's between Connors and Hostler. Connors' putter can take him out of the tournament, but it hasn't prevented him from playing well here. Same with Hostler. It's very, very close, but I think I'm going to go with Connors in Tier 5. It's very, very close. I'll make Hostler 2nd in Tier 2 and Tier 5. 3rd will be Batia, 4th will be Noren. But I do like quite a bit in Tier 5. But I'll go Corey Connors. Lastly, Tier 6, Aaron Rai, Michael Kim, Chesson Hadley, Matt Kuchar, Adam Svensson, Sam Ryder, Jake Knapp. I don't like a lot in here either. Aaron Rai could be interesting, I suppose. I'll probably go Hadley. It's Hadley or Sam Ryder. Sam Ryder, if you're a big believer on prior course performance, then take Sam Ryder. I think I'll go with Chesson Hadley in Tier 6. So this tier's construction for the waste management, I'll go Scheffler. I'll go Fitzpatrick. Tier 3, I'll go Wyndham Clark. Tier 4, I go Ben On. Tier 5 is Corey Connors. And Tier 6 is Chesson Hadley. All right, with that, let's go ahead and go into making some classic lineups, figuring out the chalk, figuring out the kind of shells of lineups that our fellow contestants are building, and see how we can maneuver around it. So let's start building some chalky lineups. I'm going to start with a Justin Thomas lineup. He is the most projected owned player per Fantasy National. I still would expect Scotty Scheffler to be the most owned, but we'll go with JT, and then probably looking at a Max Homa, maybe a Ben On. Yeah, maybe a Ben On and an Eric Cole. Moving on down into the upper sevens, Batia getting a lot of attention. And then in the mid sevens, looks like Hubbard, Hoagie. We'll go Hubbard and Hoagie. This very well could be Kevin Yu, but I actually like Kevin Yu. I'm going to try to use some Kevin Yu. So there's a look at what looks to be probably a pretty chalky shell of a Justin Thomas lineup. Players or our fellow contestants probably aren't going into, or they're probably going Justin Thomas so they don't have to go to the 6Ks. You know, they might try to push the limits a little bit. This could easily be a Sahith Theegala, and maybe they drop down off of Eric Cole to an Adam Scott. That's an easy swap there. But this is a pretty chalky lineup. You see 15%. We're trying to find, that magic 10% number. So this is going to be duplicated quite a bit, I would expect, in these big GPPs. So you don't want any part of this. You might, like I said, I like Ben On. I'll have him a little bit. I'll have Justin Thomas a little bit, but you won't be able to combine these players in the lineup and be able to rise very high in your GPPs. You're just going to be duplicated too much. If Scotty Scheffler is the build, then we got to figure out where our fellow contestants are bottoming out. You have Van Rooyen at 71 possibly. Sam Ryder at 6,900 is probably where the majority of these Scotty Scheffler lineups are bottoming out. Let's see. By going Scheffler, I doubt you'll be able to go into the 9s. If they do, we'll try Sahith Theegala since he's at the lower end of it, but I don't think you're going to be able to. Yeah, I mean, you're already pushing like 7,500. Actually, that could be done. You got Hubbard. This time I will use Kevin Yu instead of Hoagie, but those two seem to be interchangeable. And then 7,700, you got Batia is one off. Actually, I'll tell you what, Eric Van Rooyen here. Hubbard. Yeah, 79. This would be Batia. So there's a look at potentially a chalky Scotty Scheffler build. A little bit more unique, only because you're going to have to drop down into the 6s more than likely. But Sam Ryder seems to be the consensus choice of a 6K play for these chalky Scotty Scheffler play for these lineups. I was trying to get a little greedy. They might not be able to push Sahith Theegala, They might have to do what we did in the last lineup, go Ben on or drop down to like Eric Cole, and then go on further down like that. Like if they come off of Sahith Theegala and go Eric Cole, then they might be able to get to, like Adam Scott. This is more chalky. This looks like a chalkier build of a Scotty Scheffler. Scheffler, Cole, Scott, Hubbard, Van Rooyen, and Ryder. So if these are the kind of lineups that our fellow contestants are building, because it looks like everybody seems to be going either Scheffler or Thomas, how are we going to maneuver around that? Well, let's start with trying to use Scotty Scheffler and find some uniqueness. And then I'll show you the lineups that I've been building which aren't using either Scheffler or Thomas. So, Scotty Scheffler. I gave you a couple of 6K plays that are going to be a little bit more unique than off of Sam Ryder. Doug Gim, 6,800. I don't hate. Vincent Norman's much more speculative at 6,800. You also talked about Johnny Vegas, who's played extremely well here at 65. That's where I would go on the Scotty Scheffler lineups. Austin Eckroat, he's at 7,000. I just don't see it. He was not good here his one time. Yes, the off the tee is fine, but he hasn't played these the length of these par fours very well. 101st on the long par fours, 98th on the short par fours. He is a good ball striker. I will give you that. So that is a feather in his cap. But I'm just not there. I'm not there. Lashley's a little bit more interesting to me in that regard at 6,900. But at 7,000, I know where I'm going. But I'm going to use Johnny Vegas as a potential pivot. Well, if I could spell his name. I'll use Johnny Vegas, 6,500, trying to gain as much uniqueness and get as much price savings as I can without feeling too terrible about it. Like I said, Johnny Vegas has played well here in his 2 years that he's been here. Nothing outside the top 30. He's coming off of injury, but he's played. He's played a couple times already this season. I'm going to have to cheat. I'll go back to Fantasy National very, very quickly. Johnny Vegas, I feel like he's even made a cut, although I could be wrong. Not that I've ever been wrong before. No, okay, so he missed the cut at the Farmers and he missed the cut at the American Express, but you see the strokes gained total at the American Express. He actually played pretty well at the American Express. That was just the birdie fest. Sony he actually wasn't too terrible either. He just didn't putt a lick, which is normal for Johnny Vegas. It's speculative, I get it. But remember, these are base Bermuda greens. These are base Bermuda. I would think Scottsdale is going to be easy if anything. I'll change this view real quick. I would think it's going to play easy. If anything, I don't expect it to be difficult. It's speculative, I'll give you that, but he's also played extremely well here at Scottsdale. So that's where I'll go for my 6K on these Scheffler lineups. That allows me, I think, to be able to go into the 9Ks, but I won't do it on this one. I'm going to use Minwoo Lee, somebody I think is going to be pretty good here at this place. Go Corey Connors or Bo Hostler. Either one is a good play, I think. I'll just choose Connors, but very easily could be Hostler on this one. And now you're in the mid. You can make an upper 7 and a lower 7. You can do 2 mid 7s. I mean, in the shout that you gave, Darnell, Thomas Dietrich, he's in fantastic form. Fantastic form. You can throw Thomas Dietrich into this. You still have 7,500, which I'm not in love with Keith Mitchell. Okay. You know, this would be Kevin Yu. Ryan Fox is an all-world talent. He just hadn't played much here. Luke List. Let's just throw Kevin Yu into this. A little bit more chalky, but 10.5% on a lineup that you have the tournament favorite by a good deal. Minwoo Lee fits the description of the players that should play well here. Corey Connors, Dietrich, who's in arguably one of the best, arguably in the best form of anybody going right now. Kevin Yu, off the tee prowess. Johnny Vegas is speculative, but somebody who's played Scottsdale very, very well. Fox is good at tough courses. Yeah, that's why I'm not as high on Ryan Fox this week. He's just an all-world talent. He's a very, very good player that people just don't know about. He's a very, very good player, but he's better when it's difficult. So there's a look at a pretty unique Scotty Scheffler lineup. Might get duplicated once or twice. Hey, good evening, P. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Don't apologize. I'm just thankful that you take the time to drop by, check it out. Hopefully you're ready for the WMPO, the green show on grass, and all that. I think recent form should be weighted a good amount here, considering the course difficulty. See, you're thinking Scottsdale is difficult. It is not. Scottsdale is not difficult. And we can see that in the tournament history. I'll just do this very, very quickly. It has been average in difficulty, but not difficult. First round was difficult because you had a lot of wind. Oh, you're saying that it is not difficult. Okay, my apologies. Considering the easiness. I don't think it's easy either. I think it will tend to be easy as opposed to difficult, but most of the time it's about average. I mean, you see, 3 of the 4 rounds in last year were average. The entire 2022 was average. Most of 2020 was average. It's about an average difficulty course. I would tend to say on the easier end of it, but it's not a birdie fest by any means. By any means. All right. I'm going to end the show with the lineups that I've been building most often, trying to gain as much leverage on my fellow contestants as possible. This isn't what I'm going to do for every lineup, but these are the lineups that are going to have the best chance to skyrocket in your big GPPs because of the uniqueness of them. Golfers playing back and make an easy course look hard. You're looking at him. Hi. I could take a putt-putt course and make it look like Augusta. So, as I mentioned, these lineups are going to be very unique. I am foregoing Scheffler, and I'm foregoing Thomas in these lineups. You can start with Max Homa. He is a little bit more chalky than what I would like. So instead, I'm going to start this lineup with Matthew Fitzpatrick. And again, I'm on the fence with him, but guy has had a top 10 here and a top 30 in his 2 tries. Really devours par 5s. I think the ball striking is better than what it's showing here. This is quite speculative, I get you, but this is why this has a chance to really vault and skyrocket in your big GPPs, is due to this uniqueness. We're going to go Matt Fitzpatrick. We're going to go Sahith Theegala. I like Sahith Theegala. And I'm going to go Wyndham Clark. If you aren't as high on one of these 2 players, you can easily substitute out one of these 2 for, say, a Minwoo Lee or a Bo Hostler. You still could throw in a low 8 into this if you wanted and go, a lot further down into the 7s. In fact, let's try that. We used Connors in the last one, so let's throw Hostler into this one. Fitzpatrick, Tagala, Wyndham Clark, Beau Hossler. We have a 75 and a 7,000 essentially. I really like Kevin Yu, but again, I am trying to focus on as much uniqueness in this lineup as I can get. So instead of Kevin Yu, who I would use in this lineup, I'm going to try to squeeze a little bit more uniqueness out of this. I'm going to go with Luke List just because of the ball striking. You could also throw Hadley into this with Luke List. And at 7,000, it's Gary Woodland. The guy is a former champion here. Loves TPC Scottsdale. Yes, he's coming off an injury. Sub 5%. Top 5 in irons. Top 15 in the long par 4s. Plenty of distance. I'm going to be extremely overweight on Gary Woodland. If he doesn't play well, I will lose. But there is the kind of lineups that I've been building to gain a whole lot of uniqueness, a whole lot of leverage on my fellow contestants. Sub 10%, almost sub 9% projected ownership. You got 3 players here that are tournament favorites, maybe not the tournament favorite, but if Scheffler and Thomas struggle just a little bit, you're going to tell me that these 3 guys aren't one of them that are at the top of the leaderboard? Beau Hossler's been very good here. Luke List is more speculative just because of the ball striking, and I love Gary Woodland. So the players that I'm going to be overweight on, Minwoo Lee, I'll be overweight on. I'm probably going to be overweight on Corey Connors if he is indeed at 9.5%. I'm going to be probably overweight on Kevin Yu, although this 10% kind of scares me because Fantasy National tends to be under what they are. And I'm going to be overweight on Gary Woodland. So those 4 players, if they don't play well, I will lose because I'm going to have a lot of those 4 players. And I'm going to have my fair share of Scotty Scheffler as well. But these are the kind of lineups, this 999, 777 that I talk about a lot. And you don't even have to go 999, 777. You see, we squeezed in a Beau Hossler. To your point a little bit earlier, Awaken, you can throw Sung Jae into this. I'm not in love with Sung Jae this week. I don't hate it. But, maybe you're not as high on Tagala. Sung Jae fits easily into this. I would much more keep Wyndham Clark or use Wyndham Clark than I would see Tagala. I'm just very confident in Wyndham Clark's performance this week. And look at that. With Sung Jae instead of Tagala, you're at 8.5%. Very unique lineup here. Thanks to Woodland, List, Hossler. But these are the kind of lineups that I've been building or trying to make work, is these 999, 777s, or maybe 999 and a Connors / Hossler going down into the 7s for Woodland and List and Kevin Yu. Might throw Ryan Fox in once or twice just because I believe in the player. Chesson Hadley also works in this as well. And then trying to save the 6K plays for when I use Scotty Scheffler. But that's what I have for you all this evening. I'll stick around for a couple minutes because we had so many people in chat. I love it. Thanks to everybody who has participated in the poll question. If you haven't, ask that you do. Right now, it's a pretty even split on votes. 4 for Scheffler being too chalky, 3 for no. So pretty even split. To me, I don't think he's too chalky to use. Just because the quality of the player, 2-time defending champion, am I going to pick him to win a 3rd time in a row? No, because the chances aren't that great. But, premier talent, number 1 player in the world, and putts well on these greens. If he ever figures out putting, nobody else might win. My one and done, I am on the fence with this week. I've got about 5 players that I'm considering. I'm considering Sahith Theegala. I'm considering Max Homa. I'm considering Wyndham Clark. And if I feel like I want to get extremely unique, I am considering Beau Hossler. I'm trying to save Connors for something else. I'm considering Beau Hossler, and I'm also considering Gary Woodland because he has played here so well. But that's probably a little a little too much of a stretch. But I am in a lot of places in one and done. I will say, as of right now, my pick is Sahith Theegala, but I'm not confident in it, and that's why I'm telling you those 5, because I am reserving the right to change that throughout this evening. I think that's going to do it for the show this evening. We've got a lot of people here. Awaken, Darnell, Gabe, Jeff, new viewer, or new here, much appreciated. James, and P. I think that's everybody. I really appreciate you all jumping in chat. It was a very, very fun show. Loved every bit of it. Looking to grow this channel from nothing where it was a couple of years ago. So really, really appreciate the support. And thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. Always appreciate it. Remember, reach out to me on social media or in the comments of this show or of this video if you have success. Darnell has had a major week this week. Took down NBA and fantasy NHL. Doesn't have to be fantasy golf. If you have success and are a member of this community, let me know. I would love to be able to shout out members who have success at the beginning of the week. Hopefully we are back to a strong start that we had at the beginning of the year for the PGA, and then took a downturn last week at Pebble Beach. So we're going to try to rebound a little bit and get on the right track this week for the WMPO. So good luck to everyone out there for all of the wagers you have made this week for the WMPO, for all of the DFS contests you play this week for the WMPO, for this weekend and every weekend. May all your bets be profitable.